Okay, party peoples of the interwebs, welcome. This is the Extinctionati, and we are on episode 176. And we've got Kim in Kansas, I believe, and Amos in Norway. Hello.
Hello.
Kim, if you don't have voice, can you mute your microphone, perhaps? Splendid. Okay, I'm just gonna see if we have connection to the interwebs. So I think Eric is coming today. Can't be sure.
I can hear the rain hit the window.
Yeah.
Outside.
I can hear myself on the YouTube stream, so I think we're all set to go. Maybe, as I suggested in the message, the invite, before Eric arrives, maybe I could go into a bit the social media thing I was talking about. Okay, we have a chatter. Hello, chat. Yeah, I was thinking, we were talking about the hashtag thing, about how certain politicians can be right, ultimately, in what they do about the climate and stuff, while doing it for all the wrong reasons, right? Does that ring a bell?
It does, really. We have talked about it, so I know exactly what you're saying. So
yeah. So, and I've gone a bit further on that and thought of different thematic groups in social media. For instance, we could have a chat slash scientific, whatever you want, group for the Bottleneck, where people can post, papers or whatever, or you can even write documents that you can post as a document on the group and stuff. With let's say either writings or scientific assessment or whatever about how many percent of the species usually is found during a bottleneck, that kind of thing. So that might be a way to kind of aggregate what we know about something like the collapse itself and the bottleneck and different parts of the puzzle future as it comes to us already. Okay, I'm gonna get a lot of text from Kim. That's kind of hard to read during the. I'm not sure what we should do about that. We can't read all the messages on screen. So I think we just have to go with the people who can talk, basically. So, Amos, what you say? How should we proceed?
Well, one easy hashtag is bottleneck, really. That says a lot about what we are actually talking about. So people might not understand it immediately what it means for us, but they will soon. So we don't need to explain, right? So,
Yeah.
I will use bottleneck myself when I'm doing advertising for some of my posts, for instance. So I should have thought about that long ago, but I didn't. You can't think about everything, really.
No, it's not possible. Yeah, I think from the context, etc. For what I have in mind, it will be pretty clear what we are talking about, and you said people will understand, in a little time. Yes, let's see what other things I made a note about. Yeah, the collapse, the bottleneck, spirituality, maybe, and something I call acceleration by normie. You have the concept of suicide by cop. That's when somebody wants to die, but they force the police to shoot them. So we have acceleration by normie. That's when you use the Trump administration to bring us to collapse, basically.
Yeah, collective suicide is good too, right? That's what the humanity is essentially doing these days.
Mm-hmm. That's good because that goes into the societal, the community solutions and stuff that a lot of people are eager to talk about. How to do stuff together. And yeah, some other suggestions that maybe that's kind of for a later off podcast discussion for the final point. So basically, we can just for free make some groups in different social media and use them not as a daily hangout, but a place to just post bits of the pieces of the puzzle, and of course also accepting other people, outsiders, to come in and debunk whether people do this place, debunk, argue, contribute, that kind of stuff.
Yes, X, I hate that name, by the way, does have hangouts. So,
yeah, that's right. Also, yeah.
but I do believe you need to have be chief of such a group. You need to be registered.
I don't think you need that. I don't think you need that in order to start a space on Twitter or X. But that's easy to find out. Also, I'm not in love with the X space thing. I listen to it a lot, but that's kind of professionals who have lots of people. But yeah, it's not necessarily the ideal thing for smaller or more narrow topics.
No, I haven't used it myself, so I basically agree with you. It's an option, right? In case
yeah, absolutely. It's kind of the same thing with every social media. You have people have heard from the big media that you have to have 1 million followers, and that's really bullshit because you can have equally much fun with just a small clique of people, as long as they are into the topic that we're talking about. It doesn't have to be a million. You know?
Yes, I have joined Threads 3 months ago. I joined Threads 3 months ago. I'm quite happy that I did, even though I, of course, have had some posts removed. But I kind of expected that. So I
tried to join Threads maybe a year or two ago, but then it was only for elections or something. Some kind of racist rule like that. So I was actually not successful in joining it.
I think you must join Instagram first. I did that. I've been on Instagram for 5 years or so. So all my followers on Instagram was transferred to Threads. So I got a flying start, if you like.
So are you saying men are allowed on Instagram now?
I believe so. Yes, absolutely.
Okay, looks like we lost. Looks like I left the meeting. Yeah, it's kind of hard to know how to include somebody who can't.
She can't just. Is it she or he or she? By the way. Okay. It's as you said, it's hard to read what she is writing all the time, right? We could have done that, but we haven't so far. So
it's not kind of our job to read from the meeting chat. So we have 2 comments on YouTube. 100% Boom is the latest. That's from Void, something Void. Void, as I call him, or her. How do you identify gender-wise? Voidy seen young, voidy seen young. Are you a he? Okay, here we're back. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I should.
If you know Eric isn't coming, should we do the what we plan to do anyway? We could just repeat the next.
Yes, I think we should actually. I think maybe that's the ideal thing to do right now. Back mute and you run the show.
Okay, thank you. My name is Amos Kapler. I have published 28 books. The 29th, The Iron Cage, will be published April 30th this year. I'm going to read from one of my Thunder Road, Ice and Fire, which concern the collapse of civilization, return to nature. I'm going to read one paragraph from the story description on the back of the book, and then I'm going to read 2 pages from the interior. Humans are natural nomads. Now they become nomads again. Pulled together in small tribes once more, pulled into a fellowship of faith in a final desperate attempt to survive, to live the life humans are born to live. Finally. That was the bottom line, so to speak, of the blurb. I'm going to read from the book now. They spotted more of the soldiers from their higher position in the terrain. Many of the uniformed wrecks had sat down on the ground. Several of them had thrown away their weapons, their arms. Those not sitting stood still like statues slowly crumbling. They died there and then without visible wounds. Keep an eye on them, Damon commanded. Don't let them out of your sight, not for a moment. But after a while they did, allowing themselves to relax. The forgotten valley disappeared behind them. The armies of death faded from their vision, from their attention, from their immediate memory, delegated to the nightmares of a long forgotten past. Life finally resumed. The females stared at him. The three of them had approached him without him noticing, the lusty bitches. My bleeding didn't come yesterday or the day before that, for that matter. Miriam smiled brightly to him. He attempted to focus on the sight of the fresh blood on her white bandage, but what he saw of red was the dance in the depth of her eyes. Time passed. Damon waited with infinite patience, fully aware that everyone had heard Miriam's statement. I puked my guts out today, Gwen enlightened him as she rushed to his side. It was the most extreme morning sickness I've ever felt. You have never felt morning sickness before, Yola pointed out. Neither have you. The laughter came easy, and they smiled, half embarrassed, half challenging to each other. It felt good to be alive. They felt the beyond potent joy of living on in every erg of their being. An eternity before them. Everything is just ashes, Maxine said. Everything is ruins. Good riddance, Damon spat with a huge pleased grin. New life was coming, while the old faded. It felt great beyond great. The final act, the flames rose from their ruined tents. The new barbarians have finally come home, Claire said. There's reason for humanity has returned from its long exile. She quietly he looked at her. She reddened. You haven't used your medicines. The city, she said. No, he shook his head. And you haven't been coughing, not the slightest. There have been many times where you would have before. The air and the smoke slipped like velvet through my throat, he said cheerfully. His smile, their smile, wasn't that exactly, not like the former limited perception of it, but something that didn't just transform their faces, but their entire being. Roger Nolan walked with light steps up the steep mountainside. He didn't have to turn in order to look behind him, not raise his eyes in order to look ahead. Claire treated Yaran's wounded arm as they walked, as they moved. It doesn't look that bad, she remarked, but heavy lifting is out for a while, understand? As you wish, Stumbles, Yaran said. Stumbles? Claire inquired, nonplussed. It's your name shortened, isn't it? It's certainly better and more practical than to call you she who stumbles in the forest. Claire chuckled. She had long since grown comfortable with her old insecurities. Heimdall's bugle was still blowing. It would keep doing so for a long, long time. They pulled further up the steep terrain instinctively before once again glancing back down at the road and landscape covered by seawater far below. The grey belt, all the houses now only habitable to fishes, an invisible ghost from a bygone era. Damon Terrell, walking in front, looked behind him. The tribe he led consisted of many colors, many origins, a fact pleasing him immensely. He knew it made life more interesting and also improved their chances of survival. He looked up. Somewhere up there, beyond all the tunnels and turns, the land would start leveling. Far below, in the valley, they could still glimpse the smoke from the dying campfires, the red haze in the air. The warriors of the Twilight Storm walked forward with light steps as they once and for all left the past behind. The plains up there stretched like infinity before them. They knew that up there they were only one group of many, and that fact pleased them as well. People, human beings of all races and cultures, struggled, lived, and died in the land the ancient Germans had called Norwegir, the road north. Thank you.
Well, bravo. So it happens in Norway, I gather.
It takes place in Norway. Yeah, not just in Norway. It's all over Europe, but it ends in Norway. To say it like that, really.
Yes.
I don't know if you noticed, but it's they love what's happened. All the characters are cheerful because and that's many at least some grumpy readers have pointed that out too. But they are enjoying it. They feel joy of civilization crumbling dust. It's I'm so proud that it's totally different from other civilization collapse novels.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm pretty sure you are like a decade or more before this other Norwegian author, Nygaard Schau. He had a novel, maybe it's kind of a sequence of novels, right? So previous novel, he had established they call that when you gather different plants from the Amazon and categorize them and stuff. It's kind of kind of the same work as Carl von Linné did in the 1600s. So that's already happened in the past book, right? So in that new book a decade or so ago, this guy working at this flora center in Amazon, he's experimented with different reactions and stuff with these plants that are gathered, and they come to a specific plant which is seed, or the plant is the seed, but you can take the seed and you can add some kind of fusion or some kind of water or chemical to get it kick-started to start growing. And this is a special tree plant that grows so fast that it basically wipes out civilization everywhere you put it in soil. So there's a fabulous sequence where our hero, the Norwegian guy, he pushes through the Eurotunnel from France to England, and he is being held up by some nationalists inside the tunnel who have barricaded themselves in the tunnel. But he actually manages, just before he is being beheaded by his own son or whatever, he manages to plant that seed on the soil of England, and he knows that within a week or so, the entire England and Scotland and Wales will be covered by a thick rainforest, wiping out all remains of civilization. That's basically the Himmelberg novel, Sky Flower Tree, whatever. Not sure it exists in English translation yet, but it's a fabulous novel, and I was just reminded of it because our hero and his son, they applauded, or a different hero and different son, they comes to the inland way because they know that it will finally bring some peace to the forest and to the animals living there, and so it's kind of a happy apocalypse jive in that book. Maybe he has been cheating and reading your book as inspiration. I don't know.
Yes, it could be. I published it in 2017, so it is possible. That's for sure. But it's books out.
2017, I don't think. Or did you say 7 or 17?
17. Definitely 17. I wrote it in the 90s, the first draft, but I didn't publish it until 2016.
Then I actually do believe his publication was before yours in that case. So yeah.
Yes, but they are nothing alike anyway. So I don't think that I wouldn't, even if you had published after me, I wouldn't have gone to court with him, taking him to court.
to sue him?
No, I wouldn't. But it sounds like a different book, that too. It does, but I think mine is a bit down to earth, really.
Yes, I was just thinking because this is more like science fiction ish, right? It's a down to earth kind of science fiction, but you have one element which is this special tree that I can kickstart with some uranium, or I can't remember the exact reaction, but
yeah,
so obviously that is the science fiction element.
Absolutely. I wrote it in the 90s after the January. I started after I had some material before that, but I started after the January hurricane in Norway in January 1994, because they said there wouldn't be a new storm for a long time, really. There have been 2 in December 93, right? I believe, either in November or December. And the next one of this category wouldn't come for, say, 100 years or something. And it came after a month.
Yeah.
So, and all the traffic signs were twisted, right? Mm-hmm. The house roofs blew off houses, and cars were stuck in houses and everything. I was there and experienced it all. I got it's all in the book, really. It started.
And then there was even an oil platform in Bergen, which almost tore down a bridge, the biggest bridge in Bergen Center.
It collided with the bridge, yes, but it didn't have momentum enough to actually destroy it completely. They had to close the bridge for weeks, I believe, but they didn't. The oil platform, the oil exploration platform, didn't destroy it. That was there were sandy banks, right? just before the low, not much seawater above the bottom, so the bottom made it stop early enough to not.
I actually researched that episode recently, and it's kind of a funny way to summarize it is that the authorities in Norway, they learned their lesson. At the time of the collision with the oil platform in the storm, there was only 2 lanes in each direction, but today there are 3 or 4 lanes in each direction on that bridge. So they sort of doubled down, as humans always do. It's like, okay, maybe we went too far with this fossil fuel bonanza thing. No, it's all fine. We can just expand the bridge and make more cars run over it.
Absolutely. They made more cars like they always do, right? So they are still putting favoring cars for people, right? There are many roads where people get the horn from the drivers if they walk. They walk the high road, the highway, for instance, on the main roads. The drivers get pissed at you. I've done it quite a bit to take photographs and stuff, and every time they blow the horn at you. So I had lots of pleasure writing the first draft of the book, already done, even though I had my car myself at the time. But,
we have comments mentioning you saying I almost said of his experience living in the wild that he didn't miss anything from civilization and found that strange. And another one, the most enduring and prevalent realization you get out there, you belong there, it's home. So that's from the YouTube chat.
Yes, it was easy surviving in outside civilization for 8 months, actually. I did it 2 years in a row. The first time I did it for doing research for the book I read from. The next year, I did it because I had to. I couldn't afford paying electricity bill, so I had to do it. I spent 8 years and 8 months, both years, outside, and I was healthy all the time. I moved back inside. I got the cold, right? It was so great, actually. Anyone can do it. It isn't. I didn't have much experience really with outdoors before. I had lived outdoors in tents and stuff, but not. I wanted to survive in nature, really.
No.
So it was had a great life and my writing and my art and everything really. After that, I spent weeks. I've always spent weeks in nature every year from that point. Every time I return to civilization, it's a downer, big downer actually. I almost get depressed, almost, even though I never get depressed.
Well, I'm not surprised. I had it that way. Most of the time I lived in Oslo, it was like you go up into the mountains or into the forest around Oslo in the weekends and stuff. And you come back and it's like, yeah, it's drier. You can have dry socks and so the university, but it's kind of you didn't really want to go back.
No, I felt I had to because of the winter, right? And I was right. I would probably have frozen to death then, but I wouldn't do it now because anymore here at all. In 21 and 22, we didn't have below zero a single moment. 2021 and 21-22, we didn't have temperatures below zero for a single moment.
Right. Well, Greenland isn't quite there yet, but the way I measure a winter is how many times I have to dig free my window, my office window. My office window on the top is probably 3 or 4 meters above ground, but still it totally fills, and you have to dig down to reach the top of the window from outside, right? But when and it's really deep, and of course that's often not snow falling from the sky. That's often just a wind putting it, blowing it in there. So it's not really a measure of precipitation or how much snow there is, but it says something about the force of the strength of the winter. If you have to dig free your window several times during a winter.
Absolutely. By the way, my book, Thunder Road, Ice and Fire, is a great survivalist book as well. I set out to do that too, right? They trained in advance, so to speak. They knew what was coming, and not everything went as planned either with the characters, right? They wanted to drive all the way to the mountains, but the bus was destroyed before they left the city by a mighty wave. So, and you can get the book everywhere, almost all online bookstores all over the world, worldwide. So, as I said, it's a great survival guide.
Prepping. So you did prepping before it was cool.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's funny with prepping because I think both Norwegian and Scandinavian TV and mass media, they have been poo-pooing prepping for 2 decades, and like saying the people who are into prepping are the dumbest, most ugly, stupid people on the planet. And then over the past 5 months or so, they're saying everybody should prep. Everybody should have 2 bathtubs full of water because Putin may attack any second, and you should have food for your family for 6 months or 2 years or whatever. So they go from saying you're some kind of criminal because you are preparing, that past 20 years, to saying if you don't prepare, you're a criminal. It's a total black or white situation.
Absolutely, and it's it's quite typical that they do that because they want to scare us with Putin, right? They don't do it for the right reasons, for people to survive a real disaster, a known disaster they know will also come sooner or later. They just invent just another boogeyman and use that to scare people. And
I hear you. So you're saying basically that they don't tell you to prep so you will be prepared to do it so that you will be willing to give up your freedoms and your money for the military budget and all of those.
Absolutely. It's funny, right? Do you know I believe I've said it before on the show, but I'm happy to repeat it. Do you know what the biggest conspiracy theory ever is? You don't need to answer. I'm going to tell you. It's that the Russians are coming. They have told us that for 100 years and more, and the Russians have still not come, right? And they never will. Probably you can't exclude it. It will never happen. But it is so unlikely that everyone pushing it should bow their heads in deep shame. Right? It's completely ridiculous.
But I guess if you had a joint NATO operation to kidnap some Russians and bring them to Norway, then you could say they were right after all, because the Russians came because we brought them.
Yes.
Kidnapped them and brought them.
If the Europeans keep pushing the Russians, they most certainly will come sooner or later, of course, right? But in 5 years ago, if they hadn't started their naked aggression against Russia, it shouldn't have. It's as I said, it's a pure invention, right? But it can become. It's a big risk of it becoming a self-fulfilled prophecy. Exactly because of that.
That kind of feels like Greenland, because according to the second biggest political party here after the recent election, the Independence Party, the annexation or invasion of Greenland by America is only a myth created by Danish media. That's what they say, right? And you have Mette Frederiksen, the Danish PM. She says over and over again that these visitors, which are here now this week, they are here to annex Greenland for America. And if you go back and listen to what the man actually said, he never actually said he would invade or annex Greenland, and he's talking all the time about, well, we have a convincing job to do. We have to make Greenlanders want to join us, which is different from invading, right? With the military. So. I see we are joined by Pradeep from India, and as usual, take your time and speak when you want to. No pressure.
No pressure at all.
Good morning. I'll just get a hang of what's happening, then I'll join.
We have talked about my book and survival, the bottleneck, as usual, and preparing for the bottleneck, and so on. I read from my book, Thunder Road, Ice and Fire, which is available at bookstores worldwide, online bookstores worldwide. And it's so fun. It was fun, very so much fun doing it, because it reminded me of all the processes when I wrote it. I wrote it in the 90s, the first draft, but I didn't publish it until the end of 2016, I believe, or something. So I did several improvements on the first draft, which I always do. I was even better prepared for writing it when I rewrote it in the 10s from 2011 to 16. So it's a thorough book. It covers It's 220,000 words, which makes it my fourth longest book. Very detailed, but there's the material is so rich that I could have written a book containing 1,000 words, no, 1,000,000 words. I mean, of course. But I was pleased with that because you can't make a story too long. It will be boring almost if it gets too long. So 220,000 words fit the story so well, really.
So I haven't heard back from Eric, so maybe he's lost in the daylight hour kind of transition. It's a huge disappointment, I think, because he kept us hanging, like a cliffhanger, that he will have something to say about this bottleneck thing, and he doesn't say it on the first episode where he is on, and he is absent. We knew he wouldn't be there for the next. And then this week, he's absent, even though he said he will be back, and that means that we will never get his side of the bottleneck story, which is dramaturgically bad, for this kind of podcast mystery or whatever. So I think we just have to shoot a white arrow after that, as we say in Norway. It's a bummer. Somebody else speak.
And he missed my reading too, which was directly connected to the bottleneck issue. So we have been discussing.
I think perhaps he reasons like this, that if I meet these fellas in a open and fair discussion about bottleneck, I may lose my bottleneck catastrophe theory. So it's better not to talk to them, because then I can still keep it. Maybe that kind of psychology. I don't know.
Or he could have had a car crash or something, of course.
If he had a car crash, he did use his messenger app after the car crash, I think, or the thieves did.
Yes. Something can always come up, but no matter. It's great sitting here anyway.
Wait, it says he didn't use it for the past 16 hours, so your car crash theory may actually hold some water, for all I know. So, Eric, if you're in the hospital, our thoughts and feelings go out to you, and just move a toe if you can to say that you hear us, and or lift a finger. Thank you, man.
I've always been interested in this, of course, since I wrote about it. Usually when I start writing a novel, a given story, I already know most of it. I don't always have to do more research. Life is my research, really. I do like most writers, I suppose. I write about things I know about, the things I see as interesting. And the end of civilization, the collapse of civilization, has always interested me. And I see it as, I agree with those people seeing it as mandatory, right? The biggest tragedy if civilization doesn't collapse.
Absolutely. My friend, what's his name again? Hambone Little Fell is his nickname anyway on YouTube. So he's been saying for a good decade now on YouTube that it's the biggest story of all humanity, of all human history, is the going from civilization and into a collapsed world, into the bottleneck. And interestingly, even though, interpersonally he can be, antagonizing and stuff, but he's totally on the same page as we are, with perhaps being a good thing, being about the only way to actually save the rest of the living biosphere. He's totally got his head in the right place, which shouldn't be so difficult for any people, but people have all kinds of distractions from thinking about the real things.
Yes, they are trained not to think about important issues, truly important issues. They are trained to be pissed off by a trifle, by lots of trifles, but they aren't trained by the oppressive, inhuman society of today to really be self-sustainable. They're not trying to survive in conditions they are not used to existing. So they don't want to think about things like bottleneck at all. They don't want to think about unpleasant things, what they see as unpleasant things. Period. So here we are, right? As I've said it many times before, but it will be easy to do something about climate change and lots of other stuff within civilization too. At least it would be easy to try to get the slow collapse, right? Sort of controlled collapse, but it won't be. It will be abrupt, sudden, and violent, extremely violent, both from nature and from humanity itself. So you need to find a cabin in Mountain Valley. I researched the matter a lot before I found a place to be in such an event, and that's the Mountain Valleys. There will be sea rise, there will be powerful winds, extremely powerful winds. There will be social collapse, and there will be a pandemonium of infinite proportions. So, if you want to survive with yourself and your family, you need to seek a cabin, a well-stocked cabin in a mountain valley somewhere. There are lots of mountain valleys.
Yeah. Actually, like the path forward is pregnant with so many possibilities. And I also feel that non-collapse is not an option anymore at all. There is going to be a collapse, but according to the place where I'm staying, where they have written about collapse long time back, it could be a partial collapse now, they are saying. I mean, it may not be a full collapse. It could be a partial collapse with 1/4 of the people surviving or something like that. And we really don't know. Like, suppose they engineer volcanoes now and to burst. I mean, these volcanoes can bring down the temperature for some time and reverse the process of warming for some decades or centuries, for some time. And that can give, I mean, a part of humanity might survive because there'll be no food for some time and so on. So it's a very in, uh, interesting stage in our history because there's so many possible routes to collapse now. It's not like I mean, and the whole thing is there's so many tipping points and cascading domino effects. So how long it will take to come. Number two, how strong it's going to be. So it depends on a host of factors. And we really don't know how everything is going to play out. And humans are also going to huge hand in, like if there's a world war, for instance, that would probably hasten the process of collapse in a different way.
Oh yes,
And
that will take care of it. That's for sure.
And so, I mean, I intend actually like I feel very shy to talk in front of Amos Kepler, and
Okay.
we-
No, you shouldn't.
because I have, except my silly blogs, I have about what I have been thinking about the future, and so I have often been wanting to write in my blogs like the various scenarios of collapse. Like one is like, you all must have heard of Sam Carana, the climate scientist Carana. Like, so he uh, and along with Guy McPherson, they think that we are going to get into an abrupt climate change process where things will become exponential, the change. So that's one part. And then there is a possibility like if temperatures go up and humans are not there, there are 450 nuclear plants in the world. And if they are not properly manned and run, they will go toxic and they'll all become like I mean, they will all start becoming radioactive on a large scale. And so, so it's very intriguing, the future. I mean, which way it will take. And so I think this year, and I think today we are talking on a very historic day because uh, just 2 days hence, 29th of March, there's going to be a big change in our planetary configurations. And this change is going to stay for 2.5 years. And and it's a massive change because this is happening I mean, this is happening after a long time, this kind of a change, in many ways, hundreds of years, in some ways less. And the planet's conjunction, the solar flares are increasing. And I can write, I mean, I have this because what I wanted to tell in this august crowd of you all, I might publish a small book in another 4 5 months, and it's on collapse, of course. And so I'm planning a small chapter where I'll write about the possible paths to collapse. I mean, where like the various like trigger points, which ones, tipping points, which ones will be more pronounced. We really don't know. So we at least we can try to list out the permutation combinations of events. And so let me see how I can bring that out. And if we can put some probabilities to it, then like that will be very interesting. Like which way things will spin out of control eventually. And
Sounds very exciting. You're writing a book. I'm thinking that what we said before you came on, Brady, about having some social media groups for specific parts of the collapse and the bottleneck and stuff, where we can put, things like that. For instance, on the collapse group, we could put things like you just said about what climate feedbacks and what climate effects will, can
yeah,
haunt us. First, I think the ordinary, normal thinking is that human civilization will die from lack of food. That's kind of the basic. Even though we are super duper high tech and everything, and on Wi-Fi, even the refrigerator is on Wi-Fi these days. The thing that will get us is the lack of food and potable water. So that's how that comes about. Can be drought, can be floodings, and different things, and breakdown in international trade and stuff. Yeah, so those are things that we can list and organize
yeah,
on the social media group, which can be used later when writing a book about it.
it can be like a grid, a grid, and like which are the things which interact with each other, like a cross impact grid, and we can assign probabilities to events. And it's I don't know, like it's like maybe one can create a game with it.
Yeah, absolutely. But it doesn't that exists already, right? The collapse, the civilization game or something. It's about. I've never done any gaming, by the way. Almost no gaming, but I know there are games about civilization at various stages.
Sure.
Um, the Western countries usually have about 30% self-sustainable when it comes to food, right? If international trade breaks down, there will be mass starvation. But that will only be the beginning, the start. That's one way it could start, right? It could start in any way, but I believe all four factors: the sea rise, the new powerful winds, the pandemonium, and the heating, the climate breakdown itself will happen more or less simultaneously.
Yeah.
So, while there might be pockets of remains of civilization, the collapse will be worldwide. But as I said, there won't be. There could be of technology, if you like. People will use advanced technology, but the internet is usually is in the United States, right? And the United States is already in a state of collapse. So
What you said about gaming, Pradeep, I'm a huge board game buff, and who knows, maybe this podcast, this group will transcend into a board game construction design group, it's not impossible. So I think the
Yeah.
only drawback when it comes to me and gaming is that all of these modern games, they have like 3 or 4 dimensional playing and all kinds of fancy bells and whistles. It's not like the old classic board games, which I prefer.
Yeah.
I prefer basically seeing the entire board, seeing all the information, having it visible, and then making strategies from a perfect information perspective, basically. But that's only a few classic games, like the 5,000-year-old Chinese board game Go, and chess, of course. Yeah, so many games would be funny and interesting to make, but I think on the sales part and the commercial success part, we have a long way to go. To put it mildly.
Actually, like that game, what's it called? That it's about this money. Like people have a certain amount of money and they keep buying this, that, and
Monopoly.
Monopoly. Yeah.
We used
So
to play that. We used to play that as children, of course. It's interesting that Monopoly wasn't originally that game we see today, right? It was a much more socialist game, really. People didn't. It wasn't about getting rich. It was about exchange of resources, basically, and they just removed that.
it's so strange.
Yes.
It's interesting because I have Monopoly on my computer, on my iPad, and I play it for meditation, basically. No, it's like I just play it and let my mind go to other places. And interestingly, after having played it for since I was 5 years old, I only recently found the key to actually winning the thing is to make sure that you control everything. Like a psychopath billionaire kind of person. So you have to, opposite to what you said, Amos, about the socialist early version, the way to actually win the current iteration of Monopoly is to deny everybody else any kind of success and just control all parts of the city. Have own a stock in every street and stuff, and then from there just go to insane amounts of wealth and money. Yeah, so it's kind of a psychopath training game.
You need to be extremely cruel, right? We made a global monopoly, where that was really much better than the original game. I think I have burned it now, but we played it globally instead of one single nation, one single country. Right, so when you bought something, you bought Los Angeles, you bought Seattle, you bought New York City, you bought Bangkok, Beijing, and so on. So it's an automatic process, really. So it's capitalism in its worst shape, very worst shape, and that was what those changing the game intended, right? They were very. I assume they were quite displeased with the original version. So they just removed everything that made it into quote unquote socialist game.
I think the great thing about Monopoly, as I know it anyway, is that it allows for at least the brighter kids to eventually be able to see through the current economic system, right? So if you're not just playing it to beat your sister or brother, which most people do, of course, all the time, or with their friends, you will eventually see that the current system is inhumane and it's absolutely not fair. And I think everybody who grew up the same years I grew up know that it's much easier for a guy who inherits a huge villa or a huge wealth from his family to get on the housing ladder than it is for somebody who has absolutely nothing besides his student loan, right?
Oh yes, all the billionaires today inherited money from their parents. Every single one of them, and most multi-millionaires as well. So money is a great a great example of how capitalism works. Absolutely.
It's kind of a mystery that it wasn't banned, banned and deleted, and all traces of it in magazines, etc. Deleted because it's kind of too obvious how the current system works when you have that game. But as I said, only a selected few people really meditate over the game like I've done. Yes.
Yes, it's a great training course for capitalists, right? Venture capitalists, that is. So if you really take to the training, you are trained to be cruel and merciless and all that shit. So it's a view, it's an image, if you like, of the current world.
It's a window into the banking systems and all that.
Yes, and the capitalism in general, absolutely. Some people, usually libertarians, right libertarians, to be precise, claim that we don't have capitalism today. We just have state-run capitalism. But that's just bullshit, of course. Like most things, most information today. So
I think the board game that I loved the most in my childhood and youth was a Norwegian game actually called Shipping. There's
yes,
a stock exchange, sort of the main hub, but you also got a total world map and these six-edged squares or whatever for the world oceans, and then you go buying rubber Australia or New Zealand and wool in Australia and take it to different ports, and all the ports have different exchange rates for different goods and stuff. So I think 5 years ago, so I had a plan to construct an actual board game, with a plan to market it and sell it and stuff, and I would then do it on a 3D globe kind of playing board. So obviously it would have to be on a computer because you can't really have a 3D playing field in your living room because the pieces fall.
game too. I don't remember what that was called, but we made our own version of that as well. That was much more interesting, much more much more variety in it. So it's interesting, really. It's not surprising, but it is interesting that almost all the popular games are to normalize capitalism. actually.
Yeah,
Yeah, in the same way, like this collapse board game, this will be something to normalize collapse.
it would be interesting. But
So,
I think the
so
main, I think the main kind of with marketing such game is basically that no parent would ever bring for Christmas to their offspring because it's just sad and tragic, and it's like why would you think about the end of the world? It's just brings back time for that evening. That's kind of
these,
mechanism.
and
these will be dystopian games, dystopian games at the end of time.
anything removing the illusion from people's eyes is bound to be unpopular, right? So the way of illusion.
I don't know. I think you have to kind of read or understand a game like Monopoly on many different levels. On the basic level, somebody gets it for Christmas, and all the kids are lying on the floor playing it or whatever. It's all about just beating your little brother. Or whatever. It's you just want to be the best and humiliate your siblings. And I don't really see anything very very bad about that because it's innocent fun. It's like when two brothers fight, play fight. Nothing inherently wrong about play fighting. All the animals do it. All the polar bear cubs and everything.
Yes, these games are violent by nature. Like somebody wins, somebody loses, and I think that's ingrained into the kids. Like the yeah to win at any cost.
Yeah, but that is fairly new in human life, though. The hunter-gatherer tribes had to cooperate, put cooperation before all, or they wouldn't have survived, right? Anyway, an individual had put the tribe's welfare in jeopardy, or so it was completely different as long as we lived in nature. The hierarchy of the tribes is just another lie, quite simply. So, but it is surprising that most games today are more than just games. They are the training ground for adult life, just like school, right? School isn't about knowledge or wisdom or information. It's about training people to be slaves.
Indoctrination.
Indoctrination, and it's like that with almost anything today. It has developed over decades and centuries to become that shit we see around us, called everywhere. So,
Amos, would it be possible to create a board game or otherwise a game about living in the tribe the first 10 years after collapse? Maybe we could actually make
Yeah. That's a
a
nice one.
bottle. Maybe we could make a bottleneck game. How about that?
yeah, there are easy ways to do it. I've already talked about numerous ways to do it the last 5 minutes. So it's definitely doable. Absolutely.
And from my angle, I'm thinking of why not have a game about moksha, like there'll be various hurdles on the way and how you can cope with those hurdles and gain spiritual realization. That can be another type of game.
Yeah, you can make those games about everything. and not those silly games we have for children in Norway, by the way. They are just so silly, so innocent. They are sinister, right? So it's amazing, remarkable, downright remarkable how thorough the masters are. They have long ago they created a world, a society, they designed a society. The ancestors of today's masters of the world, professed masters of the world, they designed the society we have today, and they have developed it a bit, but it's basically the same that it was at least 200 years ago. At least 200 years, possibly longer, right? We have talked about how civilization itself started destroying the human spirit. How, yet again, how when the tribal societies was destroyed with the agricultures and the first cities, something very precious vanished from human life. It became a human existence instead of human life. So, but as I said numerous times, civilization has just existed for 10,000 years. It's an aberration. We have humanity has existed at least for 300,000 years, possibly longer. So it's of course it's fully possible to return to nature, to tribal, to hunter-gatherer, tribal society. Oh yes, it is. It's hard. It is doable. Absolutely.
Maybe change the topic because I think I sent you a short message about this. The Green Deal, or basically, I think a way to get a window into the inner workings of the European Union and their so-called green transition is to look now at how easily they want to change their project deal to the fight wars against America and Russia at the same time, to arm or rearm, get the army industry up and running, and then go to war over just their own lives, basically, about Russia, and to a certain degree about America. So instead of just looking into, are those lies really true, they would rather just build up military strength and go to war. And there's two ways to interpret that move, or that potential move, because it hasn't really happened yet. So one of them is to sort of, what you say in Norwegian, say saved by the gong gong. It means that somebody
saved by the bell. Saved by the bell.
Yeah. Somebody bangs the big bell, and that's the time's out, and now we have to go to war, and that means that quote unquote sadly we can't do this Green New Deal and net zero emissions thing anyway. Oh, what a pity! Oh, what a pity! Everybody is so sad that we can't do that. So that kind of hides the fact that it was totally unrealistic all the way, and even if it had worked, it would have destroyed the rest of the biosphere, mining and deep sea mining and all kinds of crazy stuff that were going on too. And the other way of seeing it is that if you think about the Green New Deal as a huge contracting and big money streams that the corrupt politicians can siphon off big fortunes from, that's sort of the corruption side of it being the main part of it, the main reason they're doing it. then it's easy to just change projects to another big money stream, which goes to the armament industry and military, right? Where the rich and mighty can still siphon off percentages of those money streams, and they don't really care if they're quote unquote saving the world or fighting Russia. It doesn't really matter to them. All they try to steal them is their glass and their mansions and their luxury yacht stuff. So as long as they can get those money streams running, it doesn't matter if it's green or military green. You know, yeah, the military green color. What's it called in English again? They call it the name of the Palestine vegetable oil thing. I can't remember at the moment. Okay. Anyway, you know.
I can't remember either. I know what you mean. I think, or something.
Virgin oil? What's
Virgin
oil made from? It's not
olive oil.
Olive, yeah, the olive green. So you change the policy from green deal to olive green, which is a military uniform color, and it doesn't really matter to the politicians and their friends and family and stuff because they just want the money side of it. So it's interpreted that it shows kind of how shallow all the thinking about the green transition always was. It was just a way to sort of say, oh, you should believe us politicians. We're doing the right thing. You're on the right side of history. Yay. And it's all about money, I fear.
Oh yes, it was the Green New Deal was a scam from the very start. They never intended to do anything about it. They just needed the pretense. They just needed to pretend that they were doing anything about it. But they were exposed from the start, really. As I have said numerous times in this program before, I was there at the first COP meeting in 1990 in Bergen. We sang blah, blah, blah to them then. And we have done it all the time since, right? It's just they will never do anything real about it. They never intended to do anything about it. And that has become more and more obvious. And as I said too, right? They lie all the time. You can't believe a word they say about anything anymore. I am old enough to remember a time where you at least could you could believe something they said. You had reason to be critical then as well, but you couldn't automatically assume they were lying. No, you can't. Now I have to assume that all the time. Whatever they say is a lie. Whatever they don't say is the truth.
Double speak.
Absolutely. So the entire EU project is bullshit, dangerous bullshit, because it gives people the belief, the illusion that something is done about a very serious problem, one of the most serious problems ever, because it concerns human survival, and it concerns life's survival on Earth. In one of my books, Phoenix Green Earth, I show the Earth just as a lifeless rock in space. There's nothing left. Everything valuable is excavated from it. There's nothing left. Hardly even a microbe or something.
And you have no illusions left. Can you can you repeat the last 2 or 3 illusions that you lost? Can you spell it out?
Well, it was that it's easy really, at least one of them. But the European or leaders of European ancestry weren't Nazis and fascists and all of those things really. But they are obviously Nazis and fascists and worse. Yeah, really. That was really. I didn't believe I could have my eyes opened wider, but I could. And in about 5 years, I have. As I said, I had some faith in the humanity or Western leaders. But no, I'm not. None of it left. None of it is left. The process against Corbyn was also that was the eye opener for the Nazi and fascist stuff thing. And before that, yeah, it was the environment. Really. I realized, I don't know, 30 years ago, really, even though I wouldn't admit it to myself that they wouldn't do anything about it. I believed, like most people, you could actually convince politicians to do what you want. But that's
yeah, I remember that when in 1988 when the intergovernmental climate change panel, whatever, IPCC, when they came along, I kind of felt that okay, yeah, we're in safe hands now. The governments will take care of it.
Absolutely, and Gro Harlem Brundtland, right, and others. She led on in the first initial years of the climate change, but I believe it was 1992. She just took it all back. She said we had to be at the 1990 meeting. She said this meeting should be held in the thing. It should be. We should all be very impatient, right? It should be held in in the spirit of impatience. But she had clearly, if she ever meant it, she had changed her mind 3 years, 1 year or 2 years after the meeting.
I think maybe we were to blame for that. The Nature and Youth Organization, we were impatient. So if she told us to be impatient, maybe she changed her mind after we had all of our actions and after we had contradicted her and shown all her lies and stuff. Maybe that's why she didn't cheer so much for impatience anymore, I guess.
She was forced. She could go 1 or 2 ways, right? But she is just typical anyway, right? She is just one person. But what we did, we basically exposed her, and she just got angry and told her true opinion, right? So it wasn't. We knew already then that they were unreliable, to say it the least.
That's the only time in her career that she ever spoke the truth, because she was so fed up with the youth.
Absolutely. Sometimes it's possible to provoke our esteemed leaders, of course, and expose themselves. There's no way back. and now they have taken another step forward, right? They don't really care anymore what the electorate think about them. They're just running with their own project, and the population, the people, be damned, right? And that has always been their viewpoint, their angle.
So Pradeep, in the EU, the president is not on what you call it, on election. You're not allowed to vote for election candidates president candidates because they're sort of above the people. How is that in India? Are you allowed to choose your own president?
Yeah. I mean, this Ursula cannot be. She's permanent in you.
She's not permanent, but she's selected by other unelected.
Or selected.
Yes.
No.
And she was reselected just a few months ago.
Yeah.
So she was very popular and are loathed, detested by the general population. Right? They didn't care anymore.
So in India, we have an election every 5 years.
We have that here as well, but so what, really? It doesn't matter.
But this time the elections were interfered to a great extent by George Soros. George Soros been funding a lot to remove Modi, and so I believe he has given $1 billion to destabilize India and remove Modi, and so I find it very funny, like the moment, like Indians, basically we are, I mean, predominantly we belong to the Hindu civilization. And the moment a Hindu became prime minister from 2014, the Western deep state has been very unhappy about it. And they want to destabilize him, unseat him, and whatnot. So, to some extent, they succeeded in the last elections. I don't know what happened. The vote share of, the main party, the Bharatiya Janata Party, which is made of indigenous Indians, declined. And there's a lot of, politics going on here, like games. And the amount of money which George Soros is sending to influence Indian, elections and create, unrest in India. It is unimaginable. But anyway, we are just managing to thrive and carry on in
Isn't the Soros really modern, more or less modern boogeyman? People instead of going after the real, blame Soros for it, right? I've heard about him. I don't know, 5 years or so. I've never seen any proof that he's doing what he's doing. He is a capitalist, like numerous other capitalists, right? And they will pay people for the support, like they do in the United States and in Europe and basically everywhere. But Soros himself,
I think there's more proof that Soros has done evil stuff than the opposite claims. The opposite claims that Elon Musk is the biggest Satan. I don't get it. I remember a previous crew of this podcast. They back in 2022, I think, they wanted some kind of poor homeless person to buy the $42 billion Twitter instead of a rich man, and I try to explain to them that's not really how anything works. You know, if something costs $42 billion, you kind of have to have some money, and you can't have your favorite homeless person take control of Twitter. So I don't really get it, and it seems that the huge hate campaign against Musk, which is now amounts to terrorism and blowing up car dealerships and charging stations, it started really with him taking over Twitter and trying to remove some of the censorship algorithms that were in Twitter and revealing how the government had actually ordered censorship, which is not allowed by the American Constitution. So to some people he's a hero, to some people he's the biggest villain ever, but I haven't seen any proof that he has done actual wrong other than, you know, to run his businesses and to save the stranded people on the International Space Station, which, by the way, hasn't, in all the coverage in US media of these guys being saved from being half a year extra on the space station, none of them have ever mentioned that it was SpaceX and Elon Musk's company and rockets that brought them back, because that's not the party line for the opposition in America, which tells you that they're really very divided days.
I think, as I said, I think it's wrong to point that you don't point at any one man, really. Not at Musk, not at Soros, but you point at all of them, really. They're all assholes. And very horrible assholes as well. Musk is an asshole. Soros is an asshole, and all the other millionaires and billionaires.
I'm basically just saying that there are tons of evidence of Soros being a bad, evil person.
It's
when it comes to Musk, it's more like people not liking him because he's doing the opposite of their ideology, which is a different thing from being evil.
His statements are really horrible, and his actions haven't been very good either. That he is doing some philanthropy isn't unknown. The most very wealthy people do philanthropy, so-called.
Yeah, but I'm not talking about philanthropy. I'm talking about real proof that he has done evil things. I can't really see that. I know about some work conflicts and stuff where people wanted, better wages and holidays and whatever for the factories. I'm aware of those things, but those are not super evil, or not in the Soros class or evil anyway. And I believe
it's got to work against the American welfare system, right? So that's definitely evil. If you,
I think we should let the dust settle before we make that conclusion. He's been tasked by the administration to find fraud and
yes,
just people who are siphoning off the federal money. So he's doing that, and from their side anyway, some part of the reasoning for doing that is so that they will have enough money for the welfare system and the healthcare and stuff, right? Because if you tighten the screw on fraud, you will be standing with more money for the good things.
What's typical? He does exactly what all these people does. and that's very evil. He goes for the those people with less funds, less money, instead of going for the real people. So that's just a deception. One more deception among
Yes, it might be, but as I said, maybe we should let the dust settle and see what we're left with after the Dodge campaign is finished.
I don't
People are talking in Moscow and in London about wanting their own Dodge operation to slim down the what do you call that? The bureaucracy and stuff, and to find out what they really need and what they only spend money on because they always spend money on it. So when you have a split media, which is totally opposite like you have in America, it's very hard to tell what is really going on. So that's just why I say you should have some ice in your tummy or whatever you say in English, and wait, let the settle and see what comes out on the other side.
I don't need to do that. I know those people are bad for us all, like all wealthy people. There is the thing about the person that's doing good things. That should be a foregone conclusion. So there shouldn't be any people, single multi-millionaire. You get what is a multi-millionaire? I have set a limit for $10 million. That's just an imaginary line, of course. It could be 8 million, it could be 12 or something, but around there. And sorry, but calling even leaving the conclusion of any wealthy person's actions for later, that is that's helping him. And he is an asshole. He is a cruel, bad man, going like all current Western governments. They go for the weak parts of the population, the handicapped, the disabled, sick, the poor, and that's just totally unacceptable in all ways. It's typical for civilization, but so what? They shouldn't really get away with it just because it's typical, because they do it more than all the rest, right? So one thing is to put we should put all the billionaires in one basket, really. But I know none of them should be singled out. But to say they do anything resembling good, that shouldn't happen.
But I'm pretty sure I agree with you on the basic stuff. All I'm saying is that I need proof, and I need to see that proof, and then I can decide whether he is or was a bad guy. You know, while you're just having people jumping up and down, running around with a like headless chicken, and because he's cutting the fraud and stuff.
I mean, he isn't cutting the fraud. He's cutting the fraud.
Yeah, but that's part of the problem. You know, how can we sit in an army of Greenland and know what it's doing to federal offices that we never heard about before this news cycle? It's very hard for us to judge, really.
No, we talk to people, really. We talk to people suffering under the joke. the joke IOOKE, right? The joke of his of Trump's and Musk's terror regime. So I most certainly don't need to reserve judgment. It isn't hard at all, so to speak, and we shouldn't even pretend it isn't. There is possible to be even worse than than the current average among leaders, and those guys, they are definitely such people.
See, I mean, as far as the comparison between Soros and Elon Musk, uh, see, if you see in the past, Soros has been closest to, I mean, people we know, like the Clintons and Obamas, and that's really, I mean, he was the person behind the throne and trying to control America and relationships that he had. But Elon is, he's not really interested in uh, destabilizing other countries or anything. His only interest is to stop the hemorrhage in America, because I mean, it's not only in America, all governments all over the world are full of bloat. The bureaucracy is a big bloat and weight on the system, and they are not contributing anything. So I think he, in a way, if you look at it, he's like a Superman who's just going all out to expose. I mean, there is some collateral damage, I agree, like on poor people and all, but that will be set right in due course. His real enemy is not the poor people, it's the money which is hemorrhaging out of US and being paid for all kinds of silly things like, I mean, LGBTQ movement in in distant places, and condoms for Palestinians, and it's crazy. Like, I mean, Muslims never wear condoms, they use condoms. $50 million for condoms in Gaza or somewhere like that. It's crazy. Like, I mean, he should be given a Nobel Prize or something. I'm sorry, in my humble opinion. I mean,
I find it absolutely amazing that anyone can have anything positive to say about it. That's just how it is.
Anyway, I don't think we will agree 100% on U.S. politics on this show. And I even said that before the show started. So maybe we should get back to the real stuff. We won't. We respect each other, but we won't 100% agree. I think on the politics of that country.
And any country, right? So we don't need to agree.
It's not a big problem. It's not a big problem.
This agreement is perfectly fine. I don't have an opinion about it. I have a problem with it at all. To me, the way I see it, it's way too little disagreements in the world.
I would call it what we call in Norwegian skin disagreement, superficial disagreement, because the basic problem of agreeing or disagreeing on anything is that we haven't seen the same information, and also none of the information we've seen is vetted or neutral in any way. So it's very hard to agree or disagree when about the info we've been given is so huge, right? So that's the only reason I say let the dust fall and see afterwards where this is headed. It's like with the Greenland situation. Nobody knows. And they are visiting here this week, and maybe by Monday will be annexed and be the 51st state of America. Or maybe they just get on a plane and go back to America and continue the Dodge slaughter of the fraud and the fat we don't. Lots of theories, though.
And the whole thing about the green fraud is, I mean, if you see the time series of fossil fuels contribution to global energy requirements, I mean, whether it's a Democrat government or Trump or anyone, it's around 80%. I mean, for the past 20 years or so. And it's not declining in spite of lot of increase in solar power here, there, and everywhere. But uh, mm, that's just catering to the increment of energy requirements. So fossil fuel is still contributing 80% of global year. So in spite of all these new, green deals and COP meetings, I think it's all eyewash, all these climate meetings. They don't.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And one of my favorite points when it comes to energy is that even if every city and every country could extract energy straight from the air in 2 meters above ground, just take as much energy as you wanted just from the air with no consequences, that would be the catastrophe ever, because what humans use the energy for, what they do with the energy, that is sort of the big problem. Because we would sprawl the cities, we would chop down the forest, we would build 10-lane motorways with that energy, right? So it's not a problem. It's not a challenge of finding the clean energy. It's more like we should just stop doing everything.
Absolutely, we should. The thing is, real energy preservance, reduction in energy. That's the way to go, of course. Step by step, reducing the use of energy completely until we reach a truly sustainable level. That too should be obvious to all. If we continue to use energy, destruction on Earth will not only continue, but it will grow incrementally on a hyperbole, right, on a steep rise curve. So the climate change action is a ruse, it's fraud. It has been from the start. It's they are shifting all the burdens to the common people, like I've written in one of my posts at my blog. They shift the burden to the general population just to make environmental protection unpopular. I can't see any other reason they would do it, at least. So they have succeeded, right? Even the Republicans in the United States were in favor of environmental protection 40 years ago. But then the big oil came and paid them off, and thereby we see the tailspin suicide run we see today.
And maybe that's the only way to save the planet, right?
Yes, perhaps. but as I said, it's easy. It would have been easy to save the planet and humanity and life on Earth in other ways as well. But
but one of the things we have been looking into in past episodes is how early you would have to start that. Would it be your parents? Would it be your grandparents? Or would even they have they even known about it? Would even they be too late to start the transition to a non-collapsing world? So that's kind of an open question.
It is. It's a prudent question, absolutely. I believe we have passed the point of no return. Now, I'm not so certain when it happened, but I do believe it has happened. I do.
One of the things I've put out is the unfortunate, if you want, the unfortunate fact that those generations that were not too late also had no idea whatsoever that any of this was going to cause a collapse. So
No, but
you may actually left with a situation where the quote unquote guilty ones weren't guilty because they had no knowledge of it, right?
well, one group that is guilty is Big Oil, right? Kept the secret of the horrible consequences of the climate change.
I do know that they were aware because I had the experts finding it out in the 1960s, but I'm also not sure that they weren't too late even then, because for instance, the Mauna Loa CO2 measurements, they were already rising very fast in the 1950s, in the mid 1950s even. So what triggered or caused them to rise so fast in the 50s? And is that a sign we were past the tipping point and point of no return before the oil companies found out? But I'm totally agree with you that they were crooks and liars and, bandits for not coming clean with what they knew. But the question remains if even that wasn't in time to change it. So maybe the strange ending to the mystery, true crime mystery, is that okay, the oil companies found out, and then they thought, just like this podcast is thinking that okay, maybe we should just try and head fast for the collapse of civilization so that we can save the plant and animals. I don't know. It's kind of an open question.
I believe it happened after 2000. That's my estimate. But I'm not.
You think so?
I do think so, but I'm not certain in any way. I don't have an exact date or a threshold or watershed, whatever you call it.
Maybe that's a question for this new social media fact group. We could just paste whatever we now different timelines for different pollution and stuff, and maybe we can at least find the right century. If you say the 2000s, I'm skeptical. But we can narrow it down. First, we can find out was it the 1900s or the 2000s, and if we decide on the 1900s, we can try to find the right decade, etc. It's not a fun game, but it's interesting, and it will be a resource for other people to join in and argue about or whatever, and then. People can use it when they're writing fiction or whatever.
It's
have a common tax base.
You're absolutely right, and you're absolutely right when you point out that the rise started at least as early as the 50s, right? So
CO2 anyway, yeah.
Yeah, I would say that the car explosion played a huge part in it. Of course, it did.
And the board, perhaps.
Pardon?
Second World War, perhaps, with all the military
Of course.
things.
One bombing, the bombing of Dresden alone, contributed a lot to the, not to speak of the atom bomb over Japan and stuff. And lots of stuff, really, right? But I will say the first oil exploration started in 1859. I know that because I researched it for a book.
Mm-hmm.
It was in South Carolina, I believe, or something. And it didn't really take off immediately, but the payoff, the profit was so enormous that very soon everyone was doing it, right?
Of course.
10 years later, they had power enough to put a stop to the alternative energy inventions during the World Fair in 1875 in Chicago, I believe. At least it was the World Fair in 1875.
Sorry, folks, I need to go immediately.
Okay,
Bye. Bye. Thanks and bye.
Bye. See you
next week. Bye.
Next week. Yes, the World Fair in 1865. That was when they made the decision to continue with oil instead of going for a range of other alternative energy sources, among them from Tesla and not the car and stuff, right? So
you didn't hear me. I was trying to end the stream, but it would end. But that's okay because the stream actually heard what you said, counter to what I believed.
That's right. There was one more interesting episode, of course. They all are, more or less. So
absolutely.
Yes.
And next week.
Oh yes, I will be there unless all electricity disappears from my apartment, or I was run down by a car, or an establishment stug from the west is making another attack on me, like he did 2 years ago, calling me a damn Putin boot. It's almost the 2 years anniversary. It was Friday the 24th, 2023. So,
you're really the perfect guy to have for these difficult ends, because we have no idea when it ends or when it reacts to my ending call. So you just rambling on, that's a perfect thing. I have to log in or sign in order to be able to end it. So it's kind of a struggle here.
okay.
Right. No, I think it was interesting. A lot of things with the gaming discussion or the game design discussion was interesting.
Oh, yes.
And other stuff. Of course, I'm not very happy with a certain Eric the Red or whatever. You can't really offend Americans by saying Eric the Red because it doesn't mean socialist like it does in Europe, right? It means the opposite.
Right. Yes. As I said, I didn't realize that until I began research for my book.
Okay.
Right. So that was 25 years ago. Then I realized. I wondered all about it. When the Republican was called Red, right? Socialists.
Yeah.
So they do everything the opposite way over there.
I think even the word liberal means totally different things in England than America. Is that right?
Not anymore, but I guess it used to. With the internet, everything became a homogeneous mass, right? Everyone
nice.
knew everything about knew everything. Everyone knew everything about anything. Right?
It's kind of the promise of the internet when it was new, that it would be more difficult to hide bad stuff and war crimes and stuff, but it doesn't seem to stop them having
No,
genocide.
they don't give a damn anymore, right? So
Yeah.
nothing will stop them except being stopped, right? That's the thing. That's the reality. So they don't care if we know anymore. They used to care, but they don't anymore. Even if they are exposed, they are exposing themselves as Nazis, right? In all camps, all liberal and conservative camps in both United States, Canada, and all of European ancestry. All countries dominated by European ancestry, by professed white supremacy. They are Nazis.
What about the the Benito Mussolini definition of fascism? He said it should be called corporatism because it's a mix of state and corporate power.
Of course.
When you have these Green New Deal things like in the European Union and also the new militarization effort, isn't that pretty close to fascism if people in government also own stocks in the armament or the green technology companies?
By the very definition, it is fascism. So.
And especially when these same sleazebag unelected bastards beat on the war drum for censorship of online discussion. That's very, very telling, I think. If they are already fascists from how they make their money, how they make decisions, when they also want to stop so-called disinformation and misinformation, because sort of people like you and I who think differently about the green schemes, right? That doesn't make them any less of fascists, in my mind anyway.
As I said, 1994, and Brave New World, and all the so-called dystopia novels and movies, they are the roadmap, right? They are not the warnings, they are roadmaps.
Let's see if I can stop the stream from this old computer.
I haven't stopped it then, yeah.
Nope. Then we would have been talking Norwegian.